Today we're going to be talking about what you and your friends need to know about illicit fentanyl and fake prescription pills. The goal of this presentation is for you to learn about the ways you and your friends can be informed, stay safe, and avoid opioids, including illicit fentanyl. Here's what we're going to cover: the basics about opioids and fentanyl, including how this issue affects people your age, what you and your friends need to know about avoiding opioids altogether, and information about naloxone or Narcan, a medication that helps reverse an opioid overdose. If we look around the room, I'm sure many of us know different amounts of information about some of these substances. Just to make sure we all have the same facts, I want to briefly touch on some of the basics. Opioids are a type of drug used to manage and relieve pain. They work by binding or attaching to the nerve receptors in the brain, spinal cord, and other organs. Regulated legal opioids like Oxycontin or Vicodin are often prescribed following surgeries or injuries or as part of a cancer treatment. Unregulated illicit opioids like heroin are sold as street drugs. There are several key differences between regulated legal opioids and unregulated illicit opioids. These key differences relate to how and where these opioids are made, where and by whom they are given out. These measures are designed to help keep people safe. Part of what makes unregulated opioids like illicit fentanyl so harmful is that it is made in an uncontrolled environment where the strength of each batch of pills, or even each individual pill, can be very different and impossible to predict. Some pills may contain very little illicit fentanyl, some contain lethal doses, and there's no way to tell them apart. The main effect of any opioid is pain relief. Two side effects are drowsiness or sleepiness and slow down breathing. When someone is experiencing an opioid overdose, they appear to be sleeping, but they cannot wake up, even when they're shaken or yelled at. Another sign a person has overdosed is that their skin begins to turn blue, gray, or purple because they're not getting enough oxygen. Opioids can be habit forming or addictive, especially if they're misused, like being taken in large doses too often or as a way to get high. Fentanyl is a powerful, fast acting opioid about 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine. Illicit fentanyl is sold on the streets or on social media, used as a pill or powder. It can be pressed into pills that look just like real prescription Oxycontin, Adderall, Xanax, Percocet, and more. These fake pills laced with fentanyl are nearly impossible to tell apart from the real prescription pills they look like. It can also be mixed as a powder into other illicit drugs like cocaine and MDMA. Because illicit fentanyl is so strong, a tiny amount can cause an overdose. And because it is fast acting, those overdoses tend to set in very quickly. Here's what you need to know about this issue that is affecting young people in Washington. In Washington and across the US, illicit fentanyl and other powerful additives are making street drugs more unpredictable and harmful. The rate of youth overdose has increased in recent years, and illicit fentanyl is a big part of the reason why. However, most teens are not actively seeking out or knowingly experimenting with opioids, including fentanyl. And overall, the number of people under 18 in Washington who have died from a fentanyl overdose remains relatively low. Still, one life lost is one too many. Fentanyl is hurting people we care about, and just by being informed and educating others, we can help keep one another safe. Here's what I want you to take away from these slides. The risks of fentanyl are very real. Fentanyl is increasing overdose and death rates for young people across Washington. At the same time, most young people are not intentionally taking fentanyl. In fact, most young people report that they don't experiment with pills of any kind, about 99% of young people actually. But because fentanyl is so harmful, it is important for everyone, including all of you, to understand the risks of fentanyl and how to avoid it. As you can see, the issues of fentanyl and opioid overdoses affect not just every community in our state, but communities across the entire country. These are not small problems, but that doesn't mean we are powerless. In fact, the opposite is true. Each and every one of you are powerful and have a voice. You absolutely can and should be part of the solution. Every small action you take adds up to make a big difference, not just in your life, but in the lives of your friends and loved ones too. These actions include not taking or sharing pills that aren't prescribed to you, using practical refusal skills, learning to recognize the difference between positive and negative peer pressure, and being a friend to others. The majority of teens who encounter fentanyl do so accidentally, mistaking fake pills for real prescription pills like Oxycontin, Adderall, Xanax, or Percocet. They typically access these pills on social media or from friends who may or may not know that the pill has fentanyl in it. One of the simplest and best ways you can make sure that you and your friends don't accidentally come into contact with fentanyl is to never take or share pills that have not been prescribed to you by a doctor. Any pill that wasn't prescribed to you by a doctor may contain fentanyl in it and put you at risk of an overdose or even death. Refusal skills are practical and concrete ways you can refuse offers to try pills and other drugs or to avoid situations where people may be using pills to get high. You probably won't feel comfortable using all of these, but choose one or two that feel like something you could use if you find yourself in a situation where you need them. They work in many other situations where you feel pressured to do something you don't want to do. Also, you might be able to teach one or more of these things to a friend who could use this information to stay safe. You could try sending a signal, agree on a code. You can text or call your parent or caregiver to come and pick you up as soon as possible. This can be a code word, a phrase, or an emoji. Pass the blame. Pass the blame to your parent or caregiver. Say, I'd be grounded for life if my parents or caregivers found out what I was doing. Offer an alternative. This strategy can suggest a different activity like getting something to eat, taking a walk, playing video games, rather than trying pills or other drugs. You could make an excuse. This strategy sounds like I actually have a test tomorrow, or I have like practice that I can't miss, or I have family coming in from out of town. Some excuse to explain why you don't want to try whatever you're being offered. You could avoid the situation. This strategy is simply about not going places or hanging around people who are likely to be trying pills or any other drugs. It could mean declining an invitation to a party or avoiding going to a certain person's house. You could just be honest. At the end of the day, no is a complete sentence. It's okay to be honest and say you simply do not want to try whatever you're being offered. You don't owe anyone an explanation. That being said, this one may feel hard to do in the face of pressure, but it does work. Be an advocate. Your friends care what you think, and you have more influence than you know. If you're ever in a position to refuse an offer to use drugs, you can take it a step beyond these other skills and actually share what you know about the risk of trying pills or other drugs. Every single time you stand up for yourself, you give other people permission to do the same thing. Your strength makes other people stronger too. Remember that. There's a reason this campaign is called Friends for Life, and it's because every healthy, supportive friendship, relationship, and connection you have helps protect you and lowers the risk that you'll ever experiment with pills or any other drugs. And when you truly show up for your friends, you help protect them too. Peer pressure has a reputation of always being a bad thing you should avoid at all costs, but that's not true. Positive peer pressure can motivate you to grow, to try new things, and to discover new things about yourself. Learning the difference between positive and negative peer pressure will also help you to learn who you want to spend time with. The simple fact is, friends won't pressure you to take risks that could really hurt you or cause you to go against your values. These are some examples of positive and negative peer pressure. Maybe take a second and ask yourself, when have I ever experienced negative peer pressure? When has someone tried to get me to do something that I didn't want to do? How did I feel? Was it awkward? Did I do it? Also, think of times that you've experienced positive peer pressure. When has a friend supported you and tried to convince you to make good choices? Don't underestimate the power of your voice. The friends you make during these years will influence your choices in your future. It's totally possible that the friendships you're making now will last you a lifetime. At their best, these friendships will give you a sense of belonging and help you learn to care for, respect, and communicate with others. It's important to reflect on the qualities you want in a friend. What values are important to share, including not using pills or other drugs, and how you should expect to be treated in a healthy friendship. One part of being a friend is recognizing when a friend might be struggling or might be at risk for experimenting with prescription pills or what they believe to be prescription pills. The three most common risk factors tend to be mental health challenges, physical pain, and social pressure. If your friend isn't acting like their usual self, try talking to them about what's going on. Learn how you can be there for them, but know that you're not alone. If the problem is serious, you can always talk to myself, another counselor, or a trusted adult here at school. Naloxone, also known by the brand name Narcan, is a medication that reverses opioid overdoses. It is available most commonly as a nasal spray. Naloxone is simple, safe, and legal to carry and use. You don't need any special training to administer naloxone. It's available for purchase without a prescription over the counter at stores like Rite Aid and Walgreens. Washington state also has laws called Good Samaritan laws, which protect people who call 911 in the event of an overdose from prosecution from simple drug possession. So if you're high or you're using drugs and you're afraid to call 911 because you don't want to get in trouble, there are laws that protect you if you're calling about an overdose. So if you believe someone has overdosed, you should always call 911. Our brains have opioid receptors. Naloxone or Narcan is a type of medication called an opioid antagonist. What that means is it blocks opioids from binding or attaching to the receptors in our brain. If someone is overdosing on opioids, naloxone will help reverse the effects, help them wake up and start breathing again. Naloxone has no effect on someone who is not on opioids, meaning if you give it to someone and they are not overdosing, you cannot hurt them by giving them naloxone. It also does not work to treat the effects of other alcohol or drugs. It only works for opioids like fentanyl. Naloxone is non-habit forming and has no side effects. However, if someone regularly uses opioids and receives naloxone in the event of an overdose, they may feel sick when they wake up. Naloxone is the most powerful tool we have to save lives in the event of an emergency. I'd like to thank you for listening and for taking the time to learn today. With your help, we can put an end to youth opioid overdoses. If you have any other questions or you think you want to talk about any of this stuff any further, please take a second and jot down any of my personal information you see on this slide. You can contact me by email, phone, or come to my classroom in room 1201.